Great. I am extremely honored and excited to have our final guest of our Bitcoin for Corporations conference. And when you think about what we've discussed over the last 2 days, I actually can't think of a company or a guest who can actually bring everything full circle better than Charles and Paxos, as really a company that is at the intersection of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and technology. And this Bitcoin for Corporations conference is really a part of MicroStrategy World, which is a very large tech and BI conference. So welcome, Charles. So excited to have you here. And maybe you just start for those who don't know you and your company by introducing yourself.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, thanks a lot for having me. Excited to be here and excited to be able to really talk a lot about what we're doing at Paxos and give an overview of where we're at. So, some of the highlights is we're about 150 people in Singapore, New York, and London. We're headquartered in New York. And I think some of the hallmarks of Paxos are firstly that we are a product and engineering company, but we're also a highly regulated financial institution. And in almost all cases, we were the first to achieve certain regulatory approvals and still the only one. And when we think of ourselves as a technology company and as a regulated financial institution, what's very important for us is being trustworthy and being very credible. And so we created a trust company in the state of New York in May of 2015, the first company to be approved in the country as a trust to operate in both the crypto and blockchain markets. And we've gone out and subsequently got additional regulatory approvals, full member of SWIFT, access to the Federal Reserve National Settlement System. We have a no action letter from the SEC. And fundamentally, what this is allowing us to do is to hold our customers' assets. And what's very important for us is that we're holding those assets and we're allowing them to be able to move into this new crypto ecosystem that has been really developing for quite some time, but is now hitting a shift from the early adopter market to the mainstream market. And we've raised over $240 million of capital. That is another element that, with our regulatory oversight, gives our customers confidence to use us. And really, our products are varied, but in the crypto market specifically, we have two sets of products that customers use us for. One, if there was a corporation and they want to be able to just buy crypto, in a very simple way, be able to use it for their treasury purposes, they can open an account with us, they can buy crypto, sell crypto, hold crypto with us. We're a qualified custodian. And as I mentioned, the first one in the country. And then secondly, we have a product called crypto brokerage. And this is something we're very proud of. Our customers include Revolut and PayPal for this product. And what this enables is corporations that might want to have a crypto experience for their own customers. And so in the case of, say, PayPal, Revolut, we're powering in the back end their crypto buy, sell, and hold. And what we also can enable for corporations is the ability to send and receive crypto because they want to be part of this monetary network that is developing and not just own the monetary asset. And so I think, it's very important to not just be part of this early adopter community moving to the mainstream and this asset class that is emerging, but also to take advantage of the asset network, the monetary network that is developing. And so that's what we really do here at Paxos is act as that infrastructural layer that can provide access to these markets in different ways for customers and do it in a really credible and safe way.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Obviously, a lot of folks knew about Paxos before the PayPal announcement, but that was a seismic shift in the crypto world when PayPal announced that they were going to allow 280 million of their users to onboard. What more can you tell us about that? I mean, obviously that was a huge announcement for your company, huge announcement for the Bitcoin and crypto world. And a huge announcement for the finance world in general. I'd love to hear. I'm sure everyone would like to hear sort of the front row seat view of that.
Well, I think we're very, very proud of what we did with PayPal. And, I think there's a number of reasons why Paxos was the right partner for them, including all of the regulatory approvals that we've gotten, the capital that we've raised, the product set that we have, the turnkey solution that we could offer. But we're also, I mean, it's such a big deal for the industry. As you said, 280 million people now can have seamless access into this ecosystem. And that's part of what's really driving this mainstream adoption curve. And certainly corporations, et cetera, are going to help continue to drive this as well, because it's about being a network. It's about being an open network that anyone can be a part of. And it's creating financial freedom, and it's creating a democratization. And, you know, PayPal is just getting started. They put out a 2-page press release. This is, something that they're really committed to. They keep talking about how committed they are to it, and I think that's really clear. They're doing so many exciting things, and there are many firms like them that are also engaging. And so, if we just looked at, what our pipeline looks like, we're seeing a dramatic change in the level of engagement from what you would call mainstream institutions. And I think that's very emblematic of this hitting a mainstream curve of billions of people ultimately having access. And I think that'll be the case in the next 18 months. We'll look back and say, wow, this has stopped being something that was a bit of a sideshow, and it's become something that is changing everybody's lives. And that's how you know that a technology is really reaching its potential. And that's how you know, I think, whether it's Bitcoin or the crypto and blockchain ecosystems really can change the financial system. That's the bet that we always made at Paxos. So we haven't positioned ourselves as a retail brand. We positioned ourselves as an infrastructure brand. And that's meant for this moment in time. This is meant for institutions that want to make sure that they have a really high quality provider of services. We've always asked for permission, not for forgiveness. So I went out and got the trust company before anyone else. You think about May of 2015, it took us 3 years. So we were doing this in May of 2012. Bitcoin was the only thing that existed then, right? I mean, this is how early we were to believing that the entire ecosystem of financial services would change, and that we wanted to make the investments to make that possible. And now we're really getting to that point where it's happening, and we're excited to be a leader to do it. I think that's what PayPal recognized, and I think that's what so many other firms are starting to recognize about Paxos and about crypto in general.
It's pretty inspirational. So, you talked a little bit about your products and your two different product segments, and maybe we can focus on the second one a little bit more, because we've talked about Bitcoin for corporations, and there's different ways to enter the network, if you will, as a corporation. One is just to hold on your balance sheet, the way MicroStrategy has, and another is to make it part of your product strategy and put it on your P&L, which is what PayPal has and what Paxos and others have. What advice would you give companies who are considering the latter, whether they're in the fintech space or finance space or not? And how would you suggest someone who wants to go down that path think about it?
Well, it's really interesting. I think PayPal is just talking about this publicly, so on their earnings call yesterday. So I'm not saying something that is different than what they've been saying. The level of engagement from a customer of PayPal once they've gone and purchased crypto on their app is 2x. It's, in other words, it's multiples of what the normal level of engagement is. And that's because it's exciting. It's a new asset class. It's creating empowerment. It's creating a high level of enthusiasm. And so that's something everyone has to consider, because you're changing your relationship with your customers. You're giving them another reason to be excited to be your customer. And if you don't do that, others will. They're going to find it somewhere. And so my first point is this is exciting. Your customers want it. It's really clear. We see this across the board. You have to really be thinking about this if you're a business that is having a financial relationship with their customers. And, so there's PayPal, but there's so many other fintech firms also that have offered this: SoFi, Revolut, Robinhood, Square, obviously, and on and on. And you have to really be thinking seriously about it. And I think that's not just because crypto is exciting and interesting, but it's also because there's a real shift that's happening, which is that an open financial system means that you can have a different relationship with a customer. You can offer a financial services relationship with a customer simply by having them download an app or open an account with you. And that's a little bit different than just having a banking relationship or just having a payment relationship. You can now become much more expansive. And that's the power of open systems. It's the real game changer for how assets can move. And so over time, it shouldn't just be about crypto. It's going to be about how all assets are, in fact, moving in this new way. And so I think your next question has to be, how can I do this really quickly? How can I do this in a way that doesn't take me a process of hiring a lot of people and building a capability in-house? And so you have to look for external service providers. And, I think Paxos has specifically built itself just for this moment and for that type of customer, for those who want to be able to offer this. We're not trying to be a retail brand. We are not trying to acquire 25 or 50 million retail customers ourselves. We want to power other people's businesses as infrastructure on a B2B or a B2C basis. And so if someone says, I want in a turnkey way be able to offer crypto products to my customers, they can come to us. We have the API endpoints. We're highly regulated. We're able to do this quickly. We've done it for others. We've done it for Revolut. We've done it for PayPal. We can do it for you. And you can decide how you want to do it. So there's a bit of a choose your adventure here. You could say, I would like to be able to have just buy and sell and hold. And you could do that. You could say, I'd like to have buy and sell and hold and send and receive, which, and that starts to open up the number of possibilities for your customers of what they can do. It's not just an asset. It starts to become about the network. And then lastly, you can also decide how you want to integrate with us. You could integrate with us where your customers are Paxos customers. So you don't have to go get all the regulatory approvals. Or you could just be the customer of Paxos and it's subledgered by the regulated institution. So you can either say you want to be regulated or you don't want to be regulated. And so we can even take away your regulatory burden for you. And so this is really, I think, a different way of approaching it because we know that inevitably lots of different relationships are going to be formed where they want to be able to enable crypto. And sometimes that firm might be regulated. Sometimes it might not be regulated. They all want to be able to have the possibility of having a different relationship with their customers. And that's what we're here to do.
That's great. So the audience we have here today, Charles, is quite an international one. And as you know better than me, a lot of the innovation that's happening in fintech happens in the U.S., but quite a bit is happening outside of the U.S. So tell us a little bit about your footprint globally, and sort of what a non-U.S. customer might look at Paxos for.
Sure. I'll be honest. A majority of our customers are outside of the United States. When we started Paxos, we actually started it in Singapore because it took us so long to get the trust company approved to operate in the United States that we actually began to operate from there. And we have a payments license that's underway that Singapore just created, and we're in the first batch that's pushing through that. So the international market is really important to us. Majority of our customers are outside the U.S. Part of the reason why that's so exciting is because a lot of countries outside the U.S. have unstable currencies. They have unstable political and financial systems, and crypto appeals to them. Even tokenized dollars appeal to them in many cases, because you essentially can create a bank account now simply by having a wallet that you download. And then you can have this asset, you put it in there, and you can now go and have what is in effect a savings account or a checking account. And that's different than how it's ever been before. In the world, maybe there's a billion, if you want to be generous, 2 billion bank accounts, but there are about whatever it is, I think 3 or 4 million smartphones growing far faster, like 25 or 30% a year. Almost everyone's going to have a smartphone shortly, and you want to be able to have financial services, even if you don't have enough balances to have a traditional bank account. And that's what this is offering. And I think that's in part most important outside of the United States. Even though in the United States there's about 25% unbanked and underbanked, people sometimes don't realize how large the unbanked and underbanked is even in the US, but it's far more of a problem outside the United States. And we're excited to be able to help power that. We have customers outside the US, some of our who use us in this exact same way, crypto brokerage. We're really careful about making sure we're only operate in the right countries. We're not going to operate in North Korea, but we're really very much able to take customers from anywhere in the world.
So you made a very compelling argument that if you have a financial relationship with your customer, you should really be considering a cryptocurrency relationship with your customer, or else you fall behind. And we've heard that theme again and again. MicroStrategy, we also do what we call the OEM business, right? And a lot of customers of ours choose us to embed in their business. And it is a big responsibility. And at times it's an advisory responsibility, right? So what's the advice you'd give to somebody, right? Like you talked about, well, there's a build versus buy decision, and you can certainly accelerate when you buy or you partner with a Paxos. But what are the things that you would suggest to someone who's just about to get into this, and they should really be considering and thinking?
Well, it comes down to in part what we talked about, which is what type of relationship are you trying to have? Are you trying to protect your own corporate funds? Paxos can help you with that. You want to protect your own corporate funds. You want to be able to invest your corporate funds in an asset class that has so much potential. Come to Paxos. We can help you. If you want to change the relationship that you have with your customers, because you have a payment relationship, you have a financial relationship, you have an engagement relationship that you want to extend, you can also come to Paxos and we can enable that. You don't have to be regulated. You can offer this to your customers by integrating with Paxos. If you are regulated, we can do this for your customers. And so you have to think a little bit about where exactly do you want to go, and recognize that even if you just want to buy crypto for your customers, in part, what's going to make this shift even more enduring is that this is a monetary network that is being created. It is a usage network that's being created. And even if you're just holding the underlying asset, you only want to do that um, because you have to believe you're going to create a monetary network over time. And you want to be able to access that monetary network. And you want to be able to access it in a safe and regulated way. And again, this is where Paxos comes into play here. You want someone who's a custodian who spent, the last 7 years building the capabilities to hold these types of assets safely, send them safely, compliantly, understand what's going on, has the capital, and has the credibility to do this for you, however you would like to proceed forward. And importantly, as exciting as Bitcoin is, I believe almost all assets are going to be upgraded to move in a blockchain-based world. And so, you still might want to have dollars, even if it's less of them, because you want to have more Bitcoin. It's a better store of value. But you might need to pay with dollars. You want tokenized dollars. We also have a product, tokenized gold. You're going to have tokenized equities, private and public company shares. Almost everything is going to end up tokenized. And so you want to start to get into the journey of that process. And crypto is something that has captured everyone's imagination, rightfully so, because of what it can represent over time, which is it becomes gold from, say, just being possibly gold. That is a huge upside possibility. And then it becomes a monetary asset, not just a store of value asset. Those are huge upside potentials that get people excited and create the network of everyone wanting to join. But it's about even more than that, in my opinion. It's about $600 trillion of assets being tokenized over time. Because why would you keep them in centralized databases, dormant, very hard to move? And you end up with problems just like we had last week with GameStop. And so, you could go on and on about how changing the monetary system will allow you to change the plumbing of the entire financial system too. And you want to be a part of that. And you just got to decide where you want to be. Just going to hold that asset. I want to be part of the network. I want to be able to offer this to my customers.
Great. So you're segueing into the sort of next topic really well here, and you're talking about sort of the overall monetary network in the world and where you think it's going to go. Uh, where do you see Bitcoin going in the next, call it 1 to 3 years? What do you see as sort of the next big things?
Well, it's clear to me that the early adopter stage is something we're exiting. And that was maybe tens of millions of people in the world in some way involved in the crypto ecosystem. And you're going to the mainstream phase. And I think PayPal, maybe you would say, kick that off officially. And mainstream phase being you're getting to billions of people that are using this. And that is absolutely going to happen in the next 18 months. And that's hard to even understand in some ways because your brains don't work that way. You think, oh, it's going to happen linearly. And then it happens non-linearly. And that goes back to all these sayings. Well, how did something happen? Well, it was slow at first and then very fast at the end. And why does that happen? Because compounding in that way is not how we're used to thinking. And when we see that happen in the next 18 months, it's going to have a huge knock-on effects in terms of who has access to the product and what I think will happen to the price. And it's always hard to prognosticate prices. If you just said, based off what we know today, the price is going to go up dramatically. Now, clearly, we could just keep printing money to such an extent that the price could go up dramatically without any new entrants coming in, any new participants coming into the system. So the tailwinds here are enormous. Huge change in adoption, plus the macro headwinds of constant debt financed money printing. Those historically can create a really powerful feedback loop and a virtuous cycle that makes it so that you really need to be involved in this asset, and you need to be thinking about how this can change um, your financial future and how it can change the financial system. And so that's Bitcoin, and it's going to have knock-on effects because when everyone has access to a tokenized asset, in this case, Bitcoin or something similar to it that sits natively on a blockchain, you're going to immediately say, well, why can't I move all the rest of my assets like this? Why am I tied? Why can't I move like dollars 24 hours, 7 days a week? Why can't I access my stocks and have them settle 24 hours, 7 days a week instantaneously? And this doesn't make any sense. And you have to have a first key leading edge to that journey happen, which to me is what the crypto ecosystem is showing, and Bitcoin is leading the way in that. But it's going to be so much broader than just one asset or one specific type of monetary network. It's going to be very expansive here.
Well, I think the idea that in the next 18 months we'll have billions of people with access to Bitcoin is really amazing. And then
It's
beyond that,
stunning, really. Yeah.
yeah, and then beyond that, to your point, tokenizing fiat currencies and other kinds of financial instruments too. So, what are some of the things that you're doing as a company to scale and to prepare your product for that level of growth?
Well, it's something we've been building now for 7 years specifically for this. We really recognized, and my experience has been in financial markets as an investor, worked in financial institutions, and my viewpoint was that this was going to be the seminal moment as we came out of the financial crisis where you could replumb the financial system. And you had all this innovation that happened in the front end. You can trade in microseconds. It's almost baffling how fast you can trade. But the settlements and the movements are still so archaic. And we see yet again last week an example of why that is such a huge problem. And so we've been building this for a long time. We've been building the regulatory approvals. We've been building the platform. And importantly, we've raised the capital to do it as well. So we raised $240 million of capital. That's to invest in our regulatory approvals. We have a trust bank that we're applied for nationally. We're working on a clearing agency registration. All of these approvals are using up our capital base, but also to grow the team. And so we've grown significantly during COVID. I'm surprised at how well it has worked, better than I would have ever imagined. And we're continuing to grow really aggressively to invest to make sure that we can handle the type of growth that I talked about. Because this is what our pipeline is showing us. And I can imagine if you look at it on an industry-wide basis, there are other people are seeing the exact same thing. But it's different when you're infrastructure. Can you be up 4 nines, 5 nines? That's what we're able to do. That's a much different thing from kind of an early adopter stage where you can go down all the time. That doesn't work if you're going to have an entire financial system building off of this technology. So you have to recognize, how do you get to this more advanced stage? How can you make sure that you're trustworthy at a level that isn't just for somebody who has kind of the realistic tolerance for that to go down, because they know that this is early, as opposed to somebody where they're thinking of it just like their ATM or whatever it is, where it should always be up. And that's what we're doing. That's what we invested in. And we built the company for this.
That's great. Thank you for that. And Charles, one of the benefits of being the anchor man, if you will, for the MicroStrategy Bitcoin for Corporations conference is you get to give all the corporations who are listening the last piece of advice and parting words. So anything you'd like to share to end the conference?
No, I always feel complimented to be the anchor leg. So thanks for having me in this spot. Look, I think the key takeaway is there's lots of different ways to be involved in this type of shift that's happening. But the shift is real. It's very large. It's happening, and it's going to really be evident in the next 18 months. You don't want to wait until it's obvious, because then you'll miss the opportunity. It doesn't mean that you won't be part of it, but you won't be able to capture quite the same amount of upside. And it's really important to be able to be there at the early stages to experiment with it. If you don't experiment with it and you're rushing at the end, it's hard to build the institutional knowledge. And so whatever your business is, maybe it's just holding crypto to protect your balance sheet from dollar inflation. That's fine. That's a great way to do it. But also, you want to think about how can you be able to send and receive that, because it'll eventually be a monetary network that you'll then take advantage of. On the other hand, maybe you want to change your relationship with your customers. You got to start thinking about that now, because others are doing it. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of people have access now. When it gets to billions, you don't want to be behind the eight ball. And the sooner you do that, the sooner you can build the capabilities and the understanding to evolve with where the future is going. And so I think now is the actual right moment for that, before we enter clear mainstream adoption, and you could very well be left behind.
I think that's a great message to end things. This is a generational change, up there with personal computing, the internet, mobile computing, and you don't want to be a laggard. You want to be first, or at least in the group that's leading. So, and clearly you guys are. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And thank you everyone who's joined us for the Bitcoin for Corporations conference at MicroStrategyWorld.now. Appreciate all of your time too.
Thanks a lot. Good to see you.